Hello and welcome to this exclusive webcast on the importance of a period friendly workplace. I'm your host Pallavi from People Matters. Period hygiene is more than just a matter of cleanliness. It's crucial for women, girls, and other menstruators, which amount to almost 1.8 billion people worldwide, according to numbers by UNICEF. It's important for them to realize the importance of good menstrual health and its impact on the well being, self confidence, and overall productivity. Talking about productivity at work, there's a lot that organizations can do to create a period friendly workplace. To connect the dots between period care and productivity, we have partnered with Sirona to explore strategies for building a period friendly workplace. Launched in 2015, Sirona is a feminine hygiene brand solving unaddressed period, intimate, and toilet hygiene issues for women across the world. The brand is credited with introducing India's first female urination device, Pee Buddy, to help women stand and pee in dirty toilets. Sirona is now a femtech brand with the launch of their app and India's first period tracker on WhatsApp to make it easier for menstruators to track their periods. The brand is also the market leader for menstrual cups with over 10 lakh users. To drive this conversation further, I would like to introduce my speakers for the session today. Dr. Deeksha S. Chadda, MD, Preventive Medicine founder of the Purple Nest. Dr. Deeksha is a budding entrepreneur with a foundation in medicine and a passion for health and safety for women and children. A skilled speaker, educator, and researcher, she's been working to bring public health issues back to the forefront. She talks about behavior change in health and business and social impact through health education. We also have with us Megha Nath, Counselor, Employee Wellness Team Zomato. Megha is associated with Zomato as a counseling psychologist. She's completed 500 plus hours of therapy and counseling covering issues ranging from anxiety, stress, interpersonal skills, and work life integration. A certified graphologist and art therapist, Megha believes strengthening emotional intelligence can help individuals excel in their personal life. Also joining us today is Deep Bajaj, co-founder and CEO of Sirona Hygiene. An entrepreneur at heart, Deep leads the new age femtech startup to solve unaddressed intimate and menstrual hygiene issues faced by women with a range of award-winning and category-defining intimate and menstrual hygiene products at Sirona. He loves supporting new startups with his inputs, angel funding, connections possible, and has invested in 30 plus startups. I welcome all of you on the panel today.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for being part of this session. And before we kick off the panel discussion today, I would request Dr. Deeksha to highlight the multiple dimensions of menstrual health, especially at the workplace. It would be great if you can share some critical insights on period health and hygiene. Over to you, Dr. Deeksha.
Thank you so much, Pallavi. Okay. So before I begin with the slides, I really wanted to set some context for this conversation, especially with all of you present in the audience today. Period health is something that, when we are talking from a medical perspective, carries a different meaning. We are discussing this for individual benefit most of the time. But here, this discussion is not just for benefit of individuals or just for us. It's also something that can, uh, you know, benefit productivity at workplaces, and how that these two get linked together. This is what we are going to discuss. I was thinking this morning, just a decade back. Something as simple as mental health, which now is so significant, was hardly talked about at workplaces. But just like conversations about mental health have shifted to the level which they have today, somewhere we need to also shift the conversation and the dialogue around intimate health, menstrual health, as well as emotional health and well-being for both men and women at the workplaces. And I'm so glad we are having this conversations about this today. So I would like to begin this by talking about, what is a normal or a healthy period, because there's so much, out there in the knowledge framework about what is abnormal about periods, that normalcy is, somewhere left. I was reflecting a lot on this this morning, because this in itself is such a vast topic. If I talk about healthy periods, or if I talk about what is a disease in a period, the duration, the flow, etc., etc., a lot of you may already be aware about this. Instead, I thought I would lead this conversation towards what is a healthy period, and how periods are simply a reflection of our overall hormonal health, which in turn gets linked to productivity, as we are going to see later. Something as simple as if our bodies develop insulin resistance, they are going to come up with symptoms of polycystic ovarian disease or PCOD, which will become a reflection, in terms of periods as a symptom. So, women and other menstruators need to start taking their period health not just as a reflection of how well their menstrual cycles are, but how well or healthy their bodies in general are, and how well their hormonal health is. Coming to the next topic about period hygiene, um, it would benefit a lot of us if we start thinking about period hygiene in terms of the 5 P's, starting with the first P, which is palms. And I know if I'm talking to a school audience, it makes a lot of sense to talk about hand washing. But why I bring this up here is because most of us understand that we need to wash our hands after using period products, but I have learned this, that a lot of people don't realize that washing hands or hand hygiene before using period products is equally important. And in a place like workplace where we are using public washrooms, this becomes even further important. And as the world moves towards sustainable menstruation solutions, more and more women are opting for menstrual cups today. So how the workplace needs to adapt to hand washing and rinsing of menstrual cups within the public washroom frameworks at the workplace is really important, and we need to give it a thought. The second P is the product which is being used, and we all know and talk about shifting from cloth or traditional options to safer and healthy options, but it's also how the product is used in a hygienic way. For example, not using the same sanitary pad for the entire duration of day, which a lot of women do if they cannot find the third P, which is a place for proper disposal of the product. And this again is a place where sustainable menstruation solutions come in handy, because reusable products don't really need a disposal method. The fourth P is the pain associated with the periods, and we do realize that when we talk about period leave as a policy, this is one of the main reasons why we even need it. The pain associated with it and the discomfort that women experience and other menstruators experience. So we need to think about what solutions we can offer, even in those situations where period leave is not an option, or in situations where periods turn up unexpectedly and you have a meeting to get into. So can the workplaces provide solutions to the women right there in that emergency, other than taking a paracetamol or a meftal spas or any other painkiller? Is something else out there? And my favorite of all P's, which is period in between periods. Periods should no longer be thought of just 3 to 5 days of flow. Uh, we always have to keep in context the period in between the two periods when we are not encountering the flow, because how our lifestyle is, how our diet is, how our sleep cycle is, or how we are exercising in the period in between periods will end up defining symptoms of PMS or how periods are in those 5 days. Um Coming to the next slide, um, you know, I hope the discussion that I just had about how periods are just a reflection of hormonal health and not just of reproductive health, this gets linked to productivity. Because if there is an imbalance in an overall hormonal framework, it does gets eventually linked back to your sleep cycle. For example, if the cortisol levels, as a very basic thing, are in imbalance, it will disturb your sleep cycle. Second, if insulin resistance is developing in your body, which is one of very common things which we are encountering these days, getting linked to obesity, heart diseases, all the other, metabolic syndrome, as we call it. So metabolic health also gets impacted if your hormonal health is not in imbalance, and periods are the point of beginning of the conversation, at least at the workplace. And of course, hormonal imbalances also lead to impact on your emotional health and mental health. And instead of me talking about it, I am so happy that we have Megha here, who is a mental health professional who can actually take us through this.
Thank you, Dr. Diksha. I think how you pointed out the fact that, there is a hormonal imbalance when we are experiencing period, or of course, and in that duration, when we are on the flow, of course there are a lot of mood swings that we experience. I think what's also important, something that I would like to point out, is the mental health aspect of before you get on your flow, basically the PMS that everyone experiences, and how it generally happens because of a neurotransmitter called serotonin, which is basically responsible for our moods in general. And because of the hormonal changes, generally there is a low level of serotonin in the human body before our period cycle, and that happens to affect our mood, and we experience mood swings, crying, sort of like tendency to like have crying spells, stress, even irritability. And it's so surprising how a lot of these symptoms are very similar to even depression and anxiety. Like that's the extent of the discomfort that women experience when it comes to mental health before periods. And yeah, even sometimes, and for a lot of women, not for a lot of women, but like 85% of the women at least, they experience these symptoms. Apart from that, there was a research paper that I was reading, and that's something that's not usually talked about, is PMDD, which is premenstrual dysphoric disorder, wherein these symptoms are so disruptive that menstruators find it difficult to function normally before their period comes up. And yeah, I wish there was more awareness around it and people spoke more about it. That's it. Like that's what I wanted to talk about from the mental health aspect of PMS and what happens before periods come in.
Thank you, Mika. I mean, even in preparation of this session, when I was having the conversation with you, it
Mm,
was so wonderful to see a change. That so many people assume that emotional health and mental health are the same thing. They're not. And especially when we are talking about women. So, giving them a special category and talking about emotional health in the framework of intimate health for women
yeah,
is definitely something which I do see becoming important day by day. And it does impact productivity. It's just common
definitely.
sense. If you're not in the right framework of your mind, how do you work? So it does get linked back to productivity. So it's not just your physical and mental health, but also your emotional health, which is linked to productivity at work and in
Mm.
your personal life. Um, so what's the solution? The two are linked. We understand that there is something that we need to do about it. So what are the things that we can do to create a period friendly work environment? And I know we are just saying period friendly work environment, but it does not mean that it's just friendly for those 5 days. It means how we can support women's overall intimate and emotional well-being, and not just women, of men also. So I could, with whatever thoughts I could put together, I thought we can think of this in terms of the three E's. The first E is empowerment, which really comes from education and knowledge. A lot of us, and to my surprise, majority women do not understand the basic anatomy of their own health, the hormone levels that impact their daily well-being. So creating awareness, connecting people with the experts who can educate them about their own self will really be important at an individual level, to create that awareness, yet that yes, something is there that might be in need of a change. So that's the first E, empowerment through education. The second E is enabling environment, which is where we go beyond the individual. And now this is where the workplace and the policy framework comes into being. Because whenever we are talking about health in general, we are trying to create a status of well-being, irrespective of whether this is your physical health, mental health, emotional health, whatever. Whenever we are trying to create a status of well-being, we want a person to shift from a behavior that might not be working from them working for them to a behavior which will start working for them. And behavior change really requires the presence of an enabling environment around the individual to make sure that this behavior is adopted as well as sustained. So the first part of that is the infrastructure at the workplace, and what changes can be made in whatever format, starting with the washrooms which are there, how they can become more friendly towards the days of the flow, the disposal, uh, to what products can be available, and thinking beyond just products for the flow, thinking how pain can be managed, thinking about how discomfort can be managed, thinking about maybe even going to some safe places where you can just sit comfortably and work just like you would at home. Two policies regarding period leave, as I'm sure we are going to talk about eventually today, and how we can connect the people within the framework of the workplaces to experts, not just experts who are talking to them, but experts who can guide them in this change of behavior. And the third E is to engage and encourage, which means these activities cannot be one time. They need to be sustained, and we need to keep layering them with improvement year by year, so that just like in physical health and in mental health we are moving forward in the workplace, same way for hormonal health also, for period health also, emotional health also, we start moving forwards. And I'm going to just sum it up and say that this is what I feel we'll be talking about, and the idea of this presentation was to build a context for the rest of the panel today. So over to you, Pallavi.
Thank you so much, Dr. Disha, for actually highlighting all these points. And thanks, Mika, for all those valuable inputs. But I want to quickly go to Deep and understand from him, like from an industry perspective, since he's leading the cause for period health and hygiene. I just want to understand, like when you initially started off, how was the adaptation rate and probably what have been your observations over the last few years?
No, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Well, observations are very fundamental, honestly. It is women in my life experience, periods, and there are issues that are not getting solved. This was the first understanding basis which the company was created, and not much has changed since then. Yeah. When you look, it's a monthly cycle. It's a healthy phenomenon, and still, when you look at the solutions, they're still very primitive. And this is what we at Sirona are trying to change, that if women are able to get through their periods better and in a easier fashion, life is simpler for everyone. So that's what Sirona is trying to solve for women, that whatever period related issues they're facing, we should be able to solve them with products which are relevant for today's workplace, and not for maybe which were relevant 20 years ago.
Sure, sure. Well, I did ask you about the adaptation, like in terms of, people adapting to such newer products. Like, do you feel like it's just awareness or any other factor also that has been like, uh, kind of inspiring people to change the way they look at periods?
Well, I think it is adoption has been phenomenal. When we started with the pee buddy, it required women to stand and pee, and the general notion was women will never do it. But we sold some 3 million odd units. It helps women during pregnancy, arthritis, and even everyday affair. So I think it is more, and same is the case with cups, where country's highest selling menstrual cup, a product which is very counterintuitive to what they've been exposed to while growing up. Like for periods, the go-to product is a pad, and here we're talking about a silicon-based device which you insert in your vagina and reuse it. I think we didn't really have to do much except for talking about these solutions. Women today are, and I think they've always known what they wanted. It was more
Mhm.
about somebody offering the solutions and be willing to talk about it. The issue in our
Right.
category today is there is so much taboo that you don't talk about these issues. You don't talk about it, there is no progress. And
Yeah.
you talk about issues, women are more than happy to try products, and we are a living example of it.
Right.
That
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Deep, for giving your insights here and helping us understand the issue better. Let's now kick off the panel discussion, and I would like to go to Mega first. So, as we opening this discussion on building a period-friendly workplace, what do you see as a gap that you feel still continues to remain in organizational policies, and how are you addressing these gaps at your organization?
Thank you for that question, Pallavi. I think before I start, talking about the gaps that still exist, I would like to address the fact that, when Zomato started period leave policy, I think it was a step towards like an egalitarian workplace. Like, I feel, of course, men and women are equal, but having said that, they don't have the same needs. And, I feel for the longest time, women's needs, like when it comes to, menstruation, and not women, in fact, anyone who menstruates, uh, has been ignored, at least mental health aspect and even what they go through physically. So I think that was one step towards acknowledging and addressing that concern. Having said that, so I was reading this article yesterday only, and it said that there was a bill that was introduced, I think in 2017, to make period leave policy a mandate for all corporates. And of course that did not pass, and then it was, I think, presented again last year in the budget session, and it was dismissed, saying that it's an unclean topic to talk about, which goes to show that there is still so much of stigma and lack of awareness all around. And even adding on to that, for a lot of folks, especially for the gender that doesn't menstruate, period leave might seem like an added advantage for anyone who menstruates, like 10 more days added to your holiday calendar. And which is not that. We don't sit and party at home when we are on our period leaves. So I think one gap is definitely lack of awareness. And what
Mhm.
we are trying to do here is, so Zomato has, partnered with this non-profit organization that basically, apart from producing sustainable period products, also promotes awareness around period health and what is the experience for a menstruator, and some of the things that we as individuals can do to make that experience more, I don't know, conducive or a little more sensitive towards them.
Right.
So yeah, so we are planning to do these awareness sessions with all the employees here, not just the ones who menstruate, wherein we talk about period health, and they can ask questions. So with the hopes that at least some of the myths that are there, that exist, can be busted, and the misconceptions that people have, and that
Right.
would obviously enable a more, like, a sensitive workplace, so that people are more, at least, like, a lot of times there's this joke when someone's cranky, especially a menstruator, that is it that time of the month. So I mean,
Right.
it's little insensitive, if not a lot. So that's the idea. That's one way that we are trying to overcome that gap.
Sure, sure. In fact, Deep, we would like to know more from you, like as the founder of Sirona, like how do you envision supporting other organizations in creating that awareness, which Megha touched upon, around menstrual health, and in the longer vision, if you see, how do you look at it benefiting the employees in the long run?
Well, I think as starters, what Megha just mentioned, or Dr. Diksha was also talking about, what Sirona is doing is just normalizing the conversations around this topic. And that's the first. If we could, or how Dr. Diksha spoke about period between period, if we can make this topic around menstrual health a normal conversation in workplaces, that's the first. And you could do this by organizing workshops on this topic where women can be made to understand themselves better. The taboo around it, the stigma around it goes away. And that's the first. And like at Sirona, that's what we anyways organize, and we help you with that, just in case if you want to organize sessions around sustainable menstruation or around period health. Sirona can facilitate that. And this is what we believe is the starting point, followed by there are problems that cannot be only solved with dialogue and needs physical products. So for period pain, for example, for disposal, if you can create your work, the washrooms to be more period friendly, that's the second. And there also Sirona is trying to come up with solutions which can help you make your workplaces far more period ready than
Mhm.
they have been traditionally.
Right. Well, talking of sustainable menstruation, Dr. Diksha, since you work in this, area of sustainable menstruation, can a switch to sustainable products or solutions like menstrual cups play a part in period health and productivity at the workplace? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, definitely. Having personally experienced this, not just talking about it, using a menstrual cup really does change your general life, and it gives you the freedom even at the workplace because you're so comfortable in it. Most women, including me, when we say we are using a cup, the first thought that comes to mind is you forget you're on your period. So imagine being on your period and not feeling any kind of discomfort. So if you're feeling comfortable, uh, uh, you can be yourself. That of course is going to help you being more productive. And then of course, from a workplace perspective, because sustainable products are mostly reusable, and you don't need disposal mechanisms in the washrooms, or any other you don't need to stock these products. If a person is using a menstrual cup, one menstrual cup is enough. You don't need to change a menstrual cup with another menstrual cup. The same cup can be reused for 5 to 10 years. So that does reduce the amount of investment also per person. It works. It just works from every perspective you think about, whether you think for the planet, whether you think for the pocket, whether you think for the person. It absolutely works.
Right, right. In fact, makeup from a wellness and inclusivity lens, if you could tell us some policies and practices you feel that this can really enable organizations to cater to period care needs.
Um, Yeah, I think so. Some of the policies that we have in place to sort of cater to the period care needs are, so we have vending machines in the washrooms where sanitary napkins are made available. There are free tampons as well, and separate disposable bins for in order to like ensure that it's disposed correctly. Then the non-profit organization that I was just talking about. So while we've partnered for for these sessions, we've also ensured that any employee of Zomato, when they order from their website, they get it at a discounted rate. And again, it's not only for the ones that who are menstruating. So let's say if someone can even buy it as a gift for their partner, or they know someone who menstruates. And I think it's also sustainable because when you so basically the non-profit organization that we've partnered with, for every cup that someone buys from their website, they also donate one in the rural areas. So that's how we are promoting more sustainable period products apart from the ones that we've made available. And I think from a wellness perspective, I think it comes from more of like open conversations, like something as simple as not hesitating, telling your teammate, even if it's a male person, that I'm on my period, so I might be taking the day off. In fact, we did this. So our general communication, work-related communication, happens on Slack. So we, introduce these menstruation leave emoji, and everyone sometimes on a period leave they put that. And I think these simple things sort of destigmatize and sensitize you to have these conversations that, oh, it's not a big deal. So I think that sort of makes it more inclusive, or at least some steps towards inclusivity.
Sure, sure. In fact, talking about stigma, Deep, if you have some thoughts around, how this is changing in terms of, starting a conversation, which we kind of briefly touched upon. So, any thoughts around that?
No, it's changing thanks to people like Mega only. If you are at your workplaces are able to talk about periods and normalize it, the stigma will break,
Hmm.
and it is breaking. It's breaking faster than we can imagine. In sustainable menstruation, Dr. Diksha just touched upon the menstrual cups, for example. Since we started talking about it in 2015-16, today a million women are using cups. I mean, just conversation. Women are the same. The period issues are the same. Just because a solution came in and somebody spoke about it, it has been adopted at such large scale. Despite its usage pattern. So it is changing and will continue to change as long as at organization level you just solve for two things. Let's just talk about the topic a little more normally, and second, make periods a little more comfortable by making some of these products which are now readily available, and just go beyond pads. Period is just not about saying कि pad available करा दिया और कहानी खत्म. It is, there are a lot of other things also that are around it. So if you really care, it makes sense for you to just see solution the issues that you might face and have that available as a bucket of solutions in the washroom. So
Right.
yeah. And
In
it's
fact, along, yeah,
yeah.
you want to say add
You know,
something?
Sirona,
Yep.
we can help you with those. If so,
Okay.
how we see is on period, one thing is flow. So every menstruator might want a different product, because no two periods are the same. So you can make pads available, tampons available. Very good, Megha, that you're doing it. But obviously, there are other solutions like there are liners, there are cups, there are disposable period panties. So why not? If it's about it's around budget that you have, that you believe you would want to pamper your team members with. So basic, yes, for the period flow, pads, tampons, liners. But there are other solutions if you want to go full. Then there is pain around periods, so which is last minute. You can't take hot water bottle to office. You can't take a painkiller; it makes you groggy. So there are patches, roll-ons, that we also offer. Disposal. So not every washroom has a different bin. So they're disposal bags, and women get rashes also because of periods. So I think it's around saying, can we create a bouquet and make it available through a dispenser? We have a vending machine which offers all these solutions. So that's what Sirona is doing, and obviously creating conversations around it by making videos and facilitating webinars, which we can do at no charge.
Sure. In fact, we've started getting some audience questions as well, but I have like few questions in mind before we move on to the Q&A. Can training of a staff, like particularly managers, be helpful in creating a period-friendly workplace? I mean, what are your thoughts on this, Megha, Deep, Dr. Deeksha?
Megha, you want to go first?
Yeah, Megha, I would like to know your point of view in this.
Could you just repeat the question? I think the internet was lagging.
Yeah, sure, sure. So talking about creating awareness and workshops and all kinds of sessions, training the staff, particularly managers, because that is one place where it all comes down to like how do we discuss the problem? How do we reach out to our manager and tell them that we are going through this or we would need a leave for this. So do you think training staff would be helpful in creating a period friendly workplace? What are your thoughts?
I think definitely. I feel when we are doing these sessions, probably ensuring that we tell the managers that you have to attend these sessions, but also sometimes even sending like a small handbook out, things that you can do as a manager to sort of sensitize yourself, and covering this also as a point that while you might have male members, you might also have menstruators on your team, and sometimes they might feel that uh, like hesitation to come up and tell you. So just I think creating that environment for your team as a manager so that anyone who's experiencing menstruation feels comfortable enough to come up and tell you that. So yeah, training around that definitely helps, covering all the managers and just sensitizing them in general about these conversations would definitely help. And if let's say with an organization as big as Zomato, if getting all the managers together could be a concern, then something that we would definitely do is send out a small handbook like of 4 5 pages wherein this is something that can be added. That definitely helps.
Sure. Deep, would you like to add something to it?
No, I think she's said everything that is there for training. I'd say, but what I would like to add is training, talking, taboo. These are all long-term, things. Takes time. I think the
Mhm.
first and the foremost thing is just make periods comfortable at office. So at least have period products available. As a gesture, you train people. Women, like I said, women know what they want. It's just
Mhm.
about making it available and then talking so that men around this are also comfortable talking. But training absolutely always helps in every industry, in every division. It does.
Talking about making things available, if you were to tell us like what could be the possible immediate changes in period care policies at the workplace, could you suggest like some of the infrastructural changes companies or organizations can actually do to create a period friendly workplace?
So, like I said, basic products absolutely can be made available. They are readily available. They're available on subscription, like I said, even at Sirona. For organizations which want to go the whole hog and pamper, there are dispensers which are available, which will take care of every period related issue, right from offering you a variety on the period product that you need, or helping you with pain, with rashes, with cleaning, and all of that. And so you don't really need to do a lot of infrastructural changes. But if you can just make products available either in a book, in a basket, or through dispensers, I think that can do the trick. But just have a variety of solutions. Let it just not be like a 2 3 products available. So you don't really need to do too much infrastructural changes.
Sure, sure. So before we move on to the Q&A, just one last question for all of you. Like having discussed, some of the best practices organizations can actually follow. What are your thoughts on reinforcing equity at the workplace? And most importantly, how can companies ensure that, these are implemented in a positive impact? Deep, you can go first.
Megha, you go ahead on this one.
Sure.
Be biased.
I'm not an expert here, but I think this is the discussion we were having before this also. That I mean, no matter how much men see period leave as an added advantage to the holiday calendar, it's not. And I think the only way, like when companies are implementing it, I think they the employee should see that this is a company policy. So I can't question this, like, and it's benefiting, even if it's benefiting one member of my team, and that adds to productivity, I should follow this. And of course, more dialogue around it would help ensure that equity, for sure. Like, only policy make changes wouldn't help. You also have to have open conversations around it, for sure. And I think that way it would help.
I think
Sure.
equity begins with understanding. So, if we get the ball rolling with people understanding where this is coming from, the core of it, how the differences are real, but still we are equals. So, it has to come from that. It's only when men truly begin to understand what's going on in the women's lives do they begin to, fathom or be open to policies like this. So it really does need to begin with creating awareness and understanding.
Definitely. Just adding to that, that way they would be empathizing and not sympathizing with us.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm in a corner on this one. I've been cornered. No, I think I agree with both of you. As a mission, I think what we are trying to do at Sirona is saying, because every period is different, for every woman, two period cycles are also not the same. So rather than having a cookie cutter approach, let it be flexible. You need a leave, you take a leave. Products are available. You want conversations. There are groups that we have. Dr. Diksha spoke about sisterhood groups. Or how do you have subject matter experts and subject matter groups? Why not have a group that discusses everything to do with women related issues? So we have a sisterhood group here where women meet once a month and they talk about everything intimate that is troubling them, intimate, menstrual, or emotional. And so at Sirona, it's fairly flexible, and I think these three can be implemented to make life simpler. Talk about it, let there be products, and have groups, specific groups where women can talk to each other about these issues.
Can I add
Well,
something in quickly
yeah,
if
yeah,
we have
please go
this?
ahead. Yeah, yeah, sure.
Coming from a medical background where in the hospital setting, of course, our male colleagues, obviously, I mean, they were educated, trained about this, they understood this. It was really easy for us to talk about why I'm not going to take up a particular case or why I am staying back today. It was really comfortable. And then shifting to Sirona, where I never really expected that. It'll be the same level, but because the conversations are so comfortable there, uh, it really does help. I honestly have never felt when I was at Sirona that I any part of the team, male or female, was treated differently because of policies, or whether we doubted each other's intentions when we were stepping out saying we were not feeling well or something like that. So it definitely is possible. And somewhere, as repeatedly everybody has been saying, it has to start with dialogue. And the more you talk about it, the easier it becomes at every level, at the level of policy and leadership, at the level of implementation, at the level of the individual.
Sure. I think we are getting a lot of questions now. We'll move on to the Q&A now. So the first question we have is from Yamini Joshi. She wants to ask some ways a remote working organization can implement a period-friendly workplace. So who wants to take this one up?
Okay.
Deep.
Okay, so you can, to begin with, organize the webinars. You can send your women staff products on every month, like a period pampering box. If at all they are working from remote location, it's a great gesture. We can help you there, by the way.
Okay.
And have groups created where women can discuss these issues once every month on a calendar during work hours. If you really mean that you want them to feel comfortable, it should be on the calendar that this is an hour where we're meeting to discuss everything emotional and intimate which is troubling you. So that's my 2 cents on remote working.
I
Great.
think adding to
Uh,
what,
yeah,
sorry,
please, please.
yeah, adding to what Deep said, and when I read that question, also remote working, organization, the first thing that came to my mind. So when I joined Zomato, I had joined remotely, and I had received a kit at the beginning with like all the goodies, and the first thought came to my mind: what if they also like, now that there are new joinees, sending them sustainable like a menstrual cup or something with their joining kit for all the menstruators. That way, at least you're promoting sustainable period and you are putting that effort. That sounds like such a good idea.
We can make it possible for you, Mega.
I will be reaching out to you soon.
Shall we move on to the next question?
Yeah, yeah, we can.
So next question is by Sanjay. He wants to ask, what are some needful modifications in the ongoing organizational behavioral system for a productive outcome?
Maybe make this as a part of induction, where we do say that we are, you talk about posh and you talk about other things. Maybe let's also have a menstrual hygiene policy at workplace where we say that, we will not take posh overall, okay, but we will not take any sort of discrimination or any sort of banter on this topic. And we expect you to, help women founders and obviously whatever other policies, you can induct that we as an organization stand by obviously all menstruators. And a gesture of that is that you have all, access whether of information or of products available 24/7 at the office. But that's mine, Dr. Diksha or Megha.
I think the same. Absolutely. The moment you decide that this is going to be a subject which you are going to work with, that very moment, the needful change has begun. And once you structure a policy around it, it'll flow down the lines.
Sure. So next question is quite interesting. Shobha Shah has sent us this question, and she wants to know what exactly is the criteria for defining a period-friendly workplace? The-
Well, if girls in your office can discuss periods openly as they can discuss at Sirona, you're a friendlier organization. If that's one line answer. Dr. Diksha or Megha, how would you define this?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's that, like feeling comfortable telling your
Yeah.
manager or any male colleague that yeah, I'm on my period, so I would be taking leave or anything. I think if you can do that, then it's a period friendly workplace for sure.
And at the HR level, if you have policies of celebrating birthdays, it's about just making the other person feel special, right? Like Megha said, those 10 days you're not chilling. So if you're not chilling, on those period days, what can we do as an organization to even go a step further and say that we care
Yeah,
through the gestures? And it's not only products. Honestly, it could be just letters. It could be the booklet. It could be really showing that we care.
Sure.
definitely.
I think
Uh,
it's if you go towards an ideal, um creating a period friendly workplace, I can write a book on it. Uh, but every organization is different, right? And the scales of the organizations differ. The number of employees who are menstruators in an organization differ. So, my suggestion would be, if we are talking to the leadership and management teams here, is to do a community needs assessment. You start with a meeting. You start with the meeting with the menstruators and see what their needs are, what they will feel will be a period friendly workplace. Of course, cannot push this enough. We have been repeatedly saying the same thing, that once you feel comfortable enough, comfortable enough that you may no longer need a period leave, you can comfortably work out of office just like you might be working from home. So it really will depend upon the organization, its structure, and its scale. And starting with assessing what the menstruators at the company need will lead you to build your own criteria.
Let me just pick the next question. Though it's a little ambiguous to me, but if you can just decode, Hassan L. Ramon has sent this question asking how will we create a period-friendly workplace in RMG sector? Like, I really would like to know, like, does it matter or how, to what extent does it matter, like, to which industry you belong to when you're talking of a period-friendly workplace?
The question is still for us, or the question is for the author?
Question is for any of you who wants to pick it up. I'll just, in fact, repeat the question. How will we create a period-friendly workplace in the RMG sector? What are your suggestions? So that's
Do
what
they
I
mean
wanted
the
to.
manufacturing part of the RMG? I'm
I
assuming
believe
that.
so. Yeah, even I have the same assumption. So that's why I posed the question. To what extent does it matter? Which industry
It
you
does.
belong to?
So,
Yes,
in
if
our
you could
experience,
elaborate.
from the Sirona Hygiene Foundation side, if I talk about it, we have been approached multiple times by manufacturing factories to conduct workshops for women at their workplace, especially women who are sitting for long hours doing the same repetitive tasks. They have a very fixed amount of time for bathroom breaks to keep efficiency. So, this does impact their productivity at a very basic scale. So often we have been invited to discuss this, and how will we create this? So for the manufacturing sector, definitely there are certain additional things, specific things different from our general offices, which needs to be put in place in terms of allowing women more additional bathroom breaks if they are on their periods, or again working with sustainable products which they can wear for a longer period of time and still have a safe and healthy period, as opposed to a disposable sanitary pad that they need to keep changing, making them comfortable in their seats. So there are multiple things, and again, separate webinar for this. It can be done. It's a long topic.
Sure. So there's a question from Manish. I believe we've already discussed, but in case you would like to reiterate, Manish wants to know, is there an immediate action that can be taken to bring about a change in current work policies?
Mega.
I think current work policy, I think, like Dr. Diksha said, it would depend a lot on the organization, right? So depending on the strength of like your employees and how big your organization is, starting from that, and also it depends how much they like. Let's say if period leave is not something that they can implement, then maybe just starting more dialogue and creating awareness so that at least it becomes more friendly, and that's first step towards it. Then deciding if they can go with leave policies and any other, like creating vending machine, like adding vending machines to the washroom, whatever seems you know feasible for the organization. I think it depends a lot on that.
I think just take the first step, whatever you can, whether
Yeah.
a conversation or making the products available. But take first. I think that's all we need to do. After that, the list can be very long, like we've covered. Maybe in the induction document, capture it so that whichever HR, whichever admin or executive is taking the new employee through the induction process, reads it and reiterates every time an employee is inducted that we are a period friendly organization. So the list can be long, starting with dialogues to making life easier by making whatever products you can make available. It's just a gesture at the end of the day. Listen, I mean, nobody is hungry for your one pad or one tampon. It just it just shows that you care. And yeah,
Or if you cannot decide, just call Sirona, they'll help you.
Well, on that note, I would like to take up the next question. It's sent by Pratiksha and talks about stigma that we were initially talking of. So she says period stigma can manifest itself in various ways, starting from explicit comments to lack of conversation and lack of facilities. How can companies ensure employees feel confident and they discuss it with their colleagues and their managers as the very first step? Megha?
Um, I think when, like, in short, like how Deep mentioned, right, that when you are mentioning it in your policy, or like especially on your first day, like this is something that we wouldn't tolerate, you're also letting them know that if something, like how you hold someone accountable for anything that comes under POSH, you hold them accountable for remarks and statements like this. And after that, also creating that safe space wherein they know that if someone actually comes and tells me something, I can go and talk to. And I think that's what at least we, like, I know for a fact that if anyone here feels, if it were to happen, they would certainly reach out to the wellness team and say that, this happened and someone mentioned this, and how should I go about it. And I think the first thing that I would also encourage as a mental health professional is, go have a confrontational conversation about it. Of course, it would take some push from there and also, but yeah, definitely. So creating that safe space and also holding the person who's making such remarks also accountable, that this is not tolerated.
Anything that you would like to add, Deep? Because probably that's the last question that we had for the day.
She's nailed it.
Yeah, she has.
Well, on that note, let me just close this session. Thank you so much for again for sharing your insights, your knowledge on the how and the why of having a period-friendly workplace. Special thanks to our partner Sirona for helping us curate this session, this conversation so effectively. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
thank you, everyone, for being part of this session, attending it. And I hope we're going out with a lot of learnings here on this session. Thank you once again.
See you.